We go live with the statements of the Attorney General of Venezuela, Tarek William Saab.
After a long day in which from the central room of this prosecutor's office here in Caracas, in front of the Carabobos Park, and in front of all, well, the over 1,000 officials led by me, we could say that after this historical event, which have had a great impact on the world and nationwide, in which the first I want to say is to greet and congratulate and applaud the dedication of the Venezuelan people to conduct these elections in a peaceful and enthusiastic way, without falling into provocations and violent calls of fake leaders who have sold the country consequently as of the arrival in office of President Hugo Chavez. What they have offered is war, violence, bloodshed, and tears, sanctions, coup d'etats, invasions, sacrifices, lots of sacrifices, and everything of it has been offered by these fake leaders, just achieving bloodshed in different times in the coup d'etat on April 11, which could end up with the assassination of President Hugo Chavez, in the oil stoppage on 2002. They were defeated, and there was coming elections of governors, and afterwards the re-election of President Hugo Chavez in 2006, and the approval of the constitutional amendment, and all that led to an era of intense calm and stability, in which there weren't sanctions against Venezuela. And so some people speak about the positivity of that era. And unfortunately, the pass away of President Chavez accelerated all the aforementioned in brutal terms. We have counted up, and we have provided several briefings of how they have searched to make better this hybrid war that was launched 20 years ago. The use of international spokespersons to generate hatred. It's impressive how their voices, and of course some spokespersons, they have called to bloodsheds, to attacks from since yesterday, and today. What the people who have walked on the streets on their way to their jobs, they have seen that today Caracas is at peace, calm, and all Venezuela is at peace, and it deserves a strong applaud, because it reveals the absolute willingness of the Venezuelan people and Venezuela for preserving the sacred asset they have, peace. Because all Venezuelans went to vote yesterday for peace, stability, and that was what happened. That's the first thing we have to say. Amid all this, amid this election, These elections arrived amid the wars in 2014, in 2019, we've got the imposition of a puppet. So you recall the self-proclaimed usurper of power, tyrant Guaido, and you see that these tyrants appears calling to vote by the far right, and the head of the Cañonazo in April, which is completely old. He called to vote for the Nazis, and likewise all the who were along with him. This coup attempt on assassination, this attempt on assassination, and the triggering of the civil war in April, and afterwards the maritime incursion, mercenary incursion that allegedly costs 200 million with silver core, and these coup mongers, they gave him 1%. They were about to well, we have to come here amid over 1,000 sanctions, cohesive sanctions, violating the human rights, just to disrupt elections. They don't care about elections, and I announced it and denounced it the last year, that the mockery theater of primary elections, and I have evidence there. Jesus Maria Casal said there weren't more than 300,000 people, but they just altered acts, documents, and they said they weren't in the polling stations, and the way of counting up these documents, in which in a rudimentary box they counted up the alleged ballots, and again they wanted, and I want to say this, they intended to repeat the mockery theater of a poorish, lameish primaries, in which documents were altered. They said that in a warehouse or in a lady's house, and we saw how this was a lie, and it served as an alibi, as Jesus Maria Casal said to me, because they had in the National Commission a private organization, and the leader, the owner of this, was the one who have called to a bloodshed. So she said that be quiet, we won't go out from the polling stations, and she said that she will sweep all workers and all leaders, because allegedly they were serving the Venezuelan state. But we have every element of conviction, we have every element that the plan wasn't that, and particularly from this in December 2023 and in these months of 2024, there were violence wave from her to disrupt these elections in Miami and other places. They just forecasted that elections weren't going to happen, and I want to congratulate the people of Venezuela that were able to combat all these attends. So it has been the electoral referee, the electoral council, as I warned you several times, that was the authority for saying who was the winner. I am going to talk about the attempt of attacking the electoral system of data. They had that main target, to create chaos and to think that these were the mockery primary elections in which 300 people attended to those allegedly polling stations and appeared at least 3 million people because they burned all documents. And so they estimated that in Paraguay, a John Doe won 5,000 ballots, and the presidential candidate just got 0.1 ballot. And so they believe this could reach some international outlet in which they use it for getting recognition. And I am going to say it loud and clear now. Pay attention. This is the main theme, and I am going to talk and to refer to new cases which I have to point out, because despite these were isolated, I have to reveal it because it characterizes these peoples who intended to harm the elections. And effectively, indeed, the only electoral referee who pronounced the verdict reaffirmed that with over 50%, President of the Republic was the President-elect of the Republic was Nicolás Maduro. So he achieved that based on what the Constitution and law establish. And it is very not worthy to mention that the Electoral Council was good for those far-right opponents submitted. It was excellent for to appear a face that a person who didn't have a campaign. How they look at him for making him to be quiet. He is very nervous, and it's impressive to see this. But the advertisements of the candidate in which you see his face and his name, it was good. It was good for them to make campaigns nationwide. It was good, the Electoral Council, for that. But when they pronounced the tally, the Electoral Council is bad, and they are against the governmental powers. And so the prosecutor's office, we warned that we're not going to put up any crime, and that's why I want to read this communique. The prosecutor's officers greet the Venezuelan people for its demonstration of civism, his democratic and peaceful vocation. The National Electoral Council, as constitutional entity in charge of the conduct of the carrying out of the electoral events has issued the official results and proclaim as winner the candidate Nicolas Maduro Moro's current president and candidate for the re-elections. In front of this example of the Venezuelan people, we reject the attempts of interference and the fearful statements conducted by some few Latin American governments that have intended to lead to the Venezuelan democracy in a shameful reedition of the Lima Group that vanishes without glory of the international arena. While the presidents that made up that group are today rejected. Yesterday, the people decided and celebrated peace, initiating a new cycle in Venezuela. However, there were attempts to sabotage the electoral process, and during the electoral day, there was detected an informatic and computing attack, a hacking against the Electoral Council. And so that's why we have opened an investigation and we have appointed the prosecutors, and they are in charge of inquiring into this crime. And we also have seen concern over the disregard of the result for a radical sector with a long history record of insurrection. In defense of peace, we inform that our institution will monitor any act that intends to initiate an escalation of violence. We warn that the violent acts and those violent acts and calls to disregard official results could be crimes against public instigation, Article 285 of the Penal Code, with a sentence of 3 to 6 years of prison, obstruction of public routes, Article 357, with a sentence to 6 to 7 years of prison. Instigation to hate, Article 20 of the Special Law Against Hate, with a sentence to 10 to 20 years. Resistance to authority, Article 218 Penal Code, with a sentence of 1 month to 2 years in jail. So there are 1 or 2 subjects who, as suspects, who are just committing this crime. So we are in favor of development in peace, in the search of consensus that allow us to overcome the serious damages of these aggressions, of these sanctions that have led to also to thefts, and we call the population to not be used in these destabilizing groups that search for chaos and suffering of the majority of our people. We congratulate the President Nicolas Maduro Moros for their triumph, for their work of the Republic Plan, and we congratulate the Electoral Council for arranging an exemplary elections, Caracas, July 29th, 2024. Thereafter I said this, I want to provide some developments of the investigation. I want to add regarding the hacking attack that this prosecutor's office has some advancements. and we know the ones involved in these crimes. According to the information that we have collected, the attack has been conducted from Macedonia, from the north of Macedonia, and they intended to manipulate data, but fortunately we stopped black hat hackers. But however, they achieved to slow down the process of reading the final bulletin of regarding the results, which numbers had been irreversible. They didn't want to slow down but alter the results of elections. The results of the electoral automated system. We have located the main suspect of this action. According to the information classified information we received, such criminal is Lester Toledo, who has been rejected and repudiated from this country, and it is a wanted subject here. Along with him, there is another wanted subject who launched the worst discrediting words, that he said there weren't going to have elections yesterday. I am referring to Leopoldo Lopez, and obviously the lady Maria Corina Machado is involved in this attempt of hacking. And I am denouncing these actions as Attorney General of the Republic. Hence, the appointed prosecutors are collecting all data to give you more evidence afterwards. And they wanted to alter the results of the electoral automated system. And I said previously, at the beginning, that we shouldn't be surprised of what they tried to do, because in December, from October to December, they launched a despicable preamble, and unfortunately we have evidence of how they burned down documents, how they were in a warehouse with pencils because they don't have a single computer machine, and they weren't interested of that the Electoral Council monitor that process. They weren't interested in that. And let's recall that those primaries were conducted without any verifying mechanism and with any records of participation. That's the referral that they wanted to repeat here. How come they are thinking that Venezuela is in the seventh, is under the developing country? We have over thousands of international observers in this process, and then the same Casal and his team said that there were less than 300,000 people participated. However, this unnamed person who demonstrated so much hate against against the government, who used an elderly with poor health condition to make him some stroke. She didn't care. Some people have to carry him with chairs. That's acting with sadism. She has a lot of ambition, of power. So then that referral is very important, because those results were denounced as fake by the own opposition at the National Assembly. Even a member of the Technical Commission of Primaries, Nelson, he denounced publicly that the figures offered by the National Commission of Primaries were altered and were fake. I have to remember that the Electoral Council presented the proposal of assistant to those primaries that had the electoral machinery. But that's why we see the same person who is accused that fraud primaries. And so they described these elections as sham, and they even said it at the end of 2023 and during this whole 2024. If these are sham elections, why did you submit in these elections? And because if I know there's a fraud in a competition, I just simply withdraw. I just simply resign. They didn't resign. They were holding their campaign across the country, and there was no incident to regret. But then I ask again, if it was the Venezuelan state good for that to happen, and then the electoral referee that you respect as you submit to this election, it was good, but now it is bad because you lose. That doesn't exist. When you win an election, that elections are valid, but if you lose, so it was fraud. For example, there are governors that were elected in opposing parties to the states. They were appointed, and there, likewise, in the Zulia state, a very important state in the country, a governor candidate won, and it was proclaimed. He was proclaimed as governor. There have been a lot of cases, or many cases as that, but the issue of elections for them is different, and that government achieved that because today it seems like a festivity in the country. It seems like a 1st of January, like a rebirth of this year. It is January 2nd in the sense of tranquility, people at their homes reflecting, mulling over, and they are very they keep posted with this news we are telling you. So we must recall that the Electoral Council has informed that in the coming hours there will be available in the official website a thorough analysis of the results of each polling station. This is what is valid, not a photocopy of what you intended to do in November last year in a warehouse, in a house, as we were told that they were used as so that doesn't exist. You won't be able to do that here. The few acts of violence I have to mention, they are severely punished. Tonight, there have been 60 incidents during the electoral process, and there were 17 detentions, arrests, moments at outside the polling stations of what the regular behavior of voters, but nothing serious. So far we have, these are the regular incidents that could occur in any country. This is an extremely small figure, because if we consider that the elections occur in 50,097 polling stations with thousands of automated machines in those polling stations. So this speaks very well of the Venezuelan sector and of the awareness of the Venezuelan people. In some of the incidents that occurred yesterday, we are going to refer to those incidents. There were people who swallowed their ballots. Strange things that has been happening, but let's say that it's not the regular thing, it's not the usual that we saw, but I repeat, 15,700 polling stations and 30,000 electoral computer machines. The negative incident occurred in Zulia. A group of criminals destroyed an asset in Rio Negro parish, and they burned down electoral machines, and that's why three of them were arrested, as they were identified by the own community, and we are going to punish with all the force of law. They were arrested because they intended to close up the polling station. In Carabobos, Juan Rodriguez Castillo was arrested as they assaulted authorities. Douglas Garcia and Jorge Gacero, they were arrested as they were the leaders of violent actions in a polling station near the park of Carabobo, located in Mexico Avenue in Libertador municipality. In Zulia, there were identified another criminal as an instigator of a violent protest in the Monsignor Educative Unit, in which the criminals attacked two officials. In Caracas, Davis Israel Correa, Bracovice, alias David Correa, he called on social media that people take the streets and not recognize the results. And so on July 29th, all cities have dawned at peace and tranquility, which demonstrates that the Venezuelan people doesn't want more violence and destabilization. In this way, the prosecutor's office, complying with the duty of informing and transmitting a positive message of calm like at the same time that we are active, all the prosecutor's office is active in all Venezuela, and we have maintained the 1,600 officials are deployed across the country, regardless of this camp. But we are aware that the Venezuelan people have talked and have demonstrated that they won't listen again to those who promote others for doing violent actions. We remember the uprisings of Guarimbas in 2017, in which a criminal gave us a candy to do a violent crime. And there have been dozens of crimes in all the country by that time, by 2014, 2017. And so that's why I applaud the Venezuelan people, the Venezuelan people and government. Thank you very much.
We were listening to the statements of the Venezuelan Attorney General William Saab. The Attorney General congratulated the Venezuelan people for their exemplary actions during the electoral process, guaranteeing peace during voting. Tarek denounced the destabilization attempts and attacks to generate hate and violence in Venezuela. Yet Tarek said that it only makes Venezuela's victory even greater since the people defeated all those schemes, and today there is peace and tranquility in the country. The Attorney General provided additional update on the attack carried out against the electoral systems that intended to undermine the elections. And the Attorney General also announced that investigations have been launched into these incidents. Stay tuned with teleSUR English for more updates in upcoming news briefs.